Chapter 2: How Kemono Friends became the #1 anime in Japan. In 2008, a free 3D animation program was released to animate Vocaloid singer Hastune Miku. It was called MikuMikuDance, and would years later be the basis for early VTubers. In 2013, 2 years before the Kemono Friends mobile game was released, a company would come along which used MikuMikuDance for something far more complex than music videos. A screenwriter named Ishidate Uraka, who hardly has an online profile, established a company called Yaoyorozu to make 3D animated TV shows. Their first anime was a high school slice-of-life show released later in 2013 called Tesagure, Bukatsu-mono. It was successful enough to get 2 more seasons and a manga, but the series was by no means huge. Then, only 3 years after the company was founded, Yaoyorozu was given its first licensed deal. Kadokawa reached out to Yaoyorozu to make a 1-season anime based on Kemono Friends. Tatsuki, who had worked on Tesagure, was set to be the director, and he and Mina Yoshizaki worked together to outline the story for the anime. Yoshizaki came up with the basic setting and outline, and Tatsuki helped out with the outline, as well as he fleshed out the details. According to Fukuhara Yoshitada, a producer at Yaoyorozu,
Yoshizaki and Tatsuki were in harmony, and the plot for the series was done around the beginning of 2016.
Now Tatsuki, he was a bit of a superstar over at Yaoyorozu. He had a deep love of CG art. Fukuhara would describe him as making
CG work for 5 days a week, and the remaining 2 days he's engrossed in CG as a hobby.
One of his greatest assets was his eye for realism.
If Tatsuki goes to the top of a building, he'll take a photo of the cityscape, and if he goes to the back of a factory, he'll take a photo of the clutter. That's the kind of person he is. He feels like everything is related to anime production.
Part of Tatsuki's love for realism is his love for impromptu changes. Something Tatsuki did when he worked on Tesagure is a technique called pre-scoring, which is a production method where the dialogue and music are created first and the visuals are created later. This allows voice actors to be spontaneous and ad-lib their own material without it affecting the animation team. This is extremely important since his animation team only consisted of 3 people. At a large company, any impromptu change or addition would require approval from a ton of different departments. But since Tatsuki was working with a close team of 3 animators, he didn't have to do this. If he wanted to make a change, he made the change, and that personal touch was present in all of his work, giving him a distinctive style. According to Fukuhara,
at Yaoyorozu, we try to build a team that prevents their creators' enthusiasm from decreasing. That's why we quickly incorporated the many ideas that came up when talking with Yoshizaki at a coffee shop into the anime. If this was a team that had to cross multiple companies to produce it, we wouldn't be able to do this.
If I had to guess, the fact that Yaoyorozu was founded only 3 years before they were given the Kemono Friends project, and the fact that it was started by a screenwriter instead of a businessman, are what allowed for this creator-first approach. It wouldn't be inaccurate to say that the anime was a direct result of Mina Yoshizaki and Tatsuki's visions, rather than the result of Kemono Friends going through a corporate filter.
Production of the anime had already started before the committee was formed and the business got going. If we had veterans of the industry who had worked on many anime before production, we would have had many meetings, revised the plot many times, and had repeated similar meetings, and production probably would have been slow to progress. If that had happened, it would probably have been a typical animal anime that everyone can easily imagine. To put it simply, Kemono Friends is not a work made in a sterile environment.
In an interview, Tatsuki said that he remembers the early writing stages of the Kemono Friends anime as being
a clumsy process, but it felt like our first story plan was flexible and took shape organically.
After the plot was finalized in early 2016, about a year into the original run of the game and the Welcome to Japari Park manga, Tatsuki began storyboarding the show.
I actually began by creating video storyboards. From there, the actual scripts were written down, and additionally, depending on whether it's necessary, I'd create more normal storyboards too. It got a little chaotic, but I think that consolidating all of the work together was a good way to do it. However, it was troublesome when the schedule got pushed back. Because of that, I wouldn't recommend working like this.
Fukuhara would describe the structure of the anime that came up with as being
like a road movie, with the 2 main characters traveling around various places, so they repeatedly meet and part with guest animals that appear in each episode. But if we were to continue this way, the only 2 characters that would always appear throughout the series would be the main ones, so we thought of a Rai-san, Finnick Fox, and Peppa Poo as characters that would always be involved.
With this structure in mind, the show started to take shape. Tatsuki's eye for realism would allow the series to take place in a realistic safari park. The two main characters would go on a road trip across the park and meet various one-off friends and episodic adventures. However, Arai-san, Fennec, and the penguin idol group Pepapu would frequently appear as reoccurring side characters to give the show depth and a loose sense of continuity. We haven't even talked about the most important part of the show yet, and that would be the tone. Like Kaji said in an interview,
There is no original work for Kemono Friends. The manga is about everyday life, and the game is centered around the battle with Thessalians. No one can imagine what the anime will be like.
And he was right. Not even the production crew knew for sure. When the show was being produced, they did not know what time of day it would air. That's right, they had no idea if it would be broadcast on Sunday mornings for children, or if it would air at midnight for adults coming home after a long day of work. Tatsuki had an impossible task. He had to direct a show which did not have an audience in mind. So, how do you make something which can be both watched by tired, bitter adults, and also be enjoyed by young children? The order from Yoshizaki was to make a work that even children can watch, but that's hardly enough direction to go by. Fukuhara talked with Tatsuki about this, and the two of them had a stroke of inspiration. They should make Kemono Friends, just like the thing which inspired it, a zoo.
When I talked with Tatsuki, I decided to make it soothing, like a zoo. A work that lets you spend 30 minutes thinking, this is fun, without thinking about anything. Even as the story progresses, no one is suddenly killed. Nothing terrible happens. It's a world of peace that continues all the time. It's a work that makes the viewer feel warm and fuzzy, as if they were watching over their daughter.
This calls back to the idea of seimei shin and purity, which I mentioned before. The show was designed to be innocent and positive in an almost childlike way, which adults can get swept up in so they forget about the harsh workday they just got home from. That said, the show would have a bite to it. Tatsuki, again, had a taste for realism, and this would be expressed in the world. Like the amusement park from the mobile game, all of Japari Park would be dead or dying in the show. The friends would be sources of pure positivity, but the world around them would be muted and dull. There would be death and danger at every turn, just like in a real wildlife environment, but the characters would remain upbeat at all times. Consistent with the idea that friends are pure and Celians are like Kegare, the friends would be constant sources of cheeriness and hope, who are seemingly unfazed by the corrupted world around them. I think this is why the show would go on to resonate with so many adults coming home from a long day of work. Adults are beaten down by the world and want to zone out and distract themselves from how stressful the world can be. And that's exactly what Kemono Friends is all about. The friends are, intentionally or otherwise, a representation of what the audience wishes they were. The friends are stuck in a terrible, untamed world, but they don't let it affect them. Just like adults are stuck in a terrible corporate world and might wish it didn't wear them down so much. By doing this, the Kemono Friends anime allows its viewers to live vicariously through it by presenting a world where the main characters, and by extension the viewers, are able to be happy regardless of whatever stress is going on in the background. In short, Kemono Friends is tanoshi, or pleasant and fun. The Kemono Friends anime would be announced around the beginning of April in 2016. 4 months later in July, the first Kemono Friends shopping cafe would open in Akihabara. This is where the first official Kemono Friends merchandise was sold. Japanese collab shops and cafes tend to be temporary events, so it closed down soon after. But 2 months later, it would be reopened again, and the penguin idol group Pepapu would be revealed for the first time. Kaji would later say that,
This may sound like we're deliberately releasing information in small doses, but in reality we can only release it little by little because there are so few people involved. To begin with, I'm the editor-in-chief at Kadokawa. This isn't my main job, but I personally like Kemono Friends, so I continued with it, little by little. By releasing new characters, I've been able to show the content that's continuing.
In November of 2016, a promotional video was released for the Kemono Friends anime. It revealed the voice actors for the show, something that Kaji remembered people criticizing.
We released a promotional video and announced the cast at the end of November. At the time, there were some criticisms that the cast is different from the game, but I quietly accepted it and moved forward.
Fans of the game were criticizing how the anime was going to have a different cast, and worse yet, the upcoming show also began to attract negative media attention.
In December 2016, Kemono Friends was negatively covered and attracted attention as a weird series in which the anime starts after the game ends. I think the general image is that the anime is broadcast as a sales promotion to sell the game. No matter how much we explain that it isn't like that, the public's image doesn't change. Moreover, the game ended on December 14th, the same day the advanced preview of the anime was held. It was a coincidence.
Despite that, the advanced preview was arguably successful, albeit not necessarily because people were excited for the show.
The venue was full. I also remember that there were far more applications than there were seats. I think it was because the stars Ai Uchida, previously in Love Live, and Miku Sasaki appeared in the show, and the fans of the cast came.
Everyone who was involved was being worn down. The failure of the mobile game had not only garnered bad press, but it also caused the official Twitter account for Kemono Friends to stagnate. Ever since the release of the game in 2015, it had remained at around 5,000 to 6,000 followers. Now, less than 2 years after the game went online, it was being shut down. That, on top of the recasting of characters for the anime, left Kemono Friends in a precarious position. No matter how much of a fan Kaji might have been of the project, and no matter how far out of the way he went to get eyes on it, doom and gloom spread.
The number of Twitter followers didn't increase that much even after the advanced preview. There are a lot of anime this season, but when I looked at other official accounts, I thought, I'm jealous of all the followers you have, because every time an official anime Twitter page tweets, it gets retweeted a lot. I didn't want Kemono Friends to be thought of as unpopular, so I promoted it as hard as I could. I exhibited it at the Winter Comiket and put up posters on the Rinkai line. As a result, all the Comiket goods were sold out for all 3 days thanks to the fans' support. The goods at the Kemono Friends shop were also well received, so I believed that Kemono Friends had potential. At the time, I wondered, why isn't it spreading quickly? After much deliberation, I had no choice but to wait and see what would happen after the anime was broadcast on television.
The show was set to air its first episode on January 18th, 2017. It would be broadcast on Tuesdays at 1:35 a.m., which I have to imagine is the worst possible time slot for anything? This is when everything changed for Kemono Friends.
When it was broadcast, the first episode didn't get much attention. If you look at the popularity rankings for this season, it's easier to count from the bottom. But things changed when people called research teams appeared on social media. Just before episode 2 was broadcast, I had a meeting with Fukuhara about something else. At that time, we were chatting about how we hoped the end of episode 2 would become a hot topic. Right after we had that chat, someone appeared on Twitter who was what we were hoping for. That made me really happy.
That someone was a user who theory crafted about the ending of episode 2, and soon enough, more and more of these theory crafters began to appear.
These fans came to be called the research team, and they put into words things that were difficult for us to put into words, and they spread them online. Furthermore, when anime fans read them, they gradually started to attract attention. It was around the same time that the number of followers on the official account started to increase. It started to become a hot topic in the second episode, and the fire started to grow from the third episode onward, and then it exploded in the fourth episode. The number of followers, which had been around 5,000 to 6,000 until then, started to increase by about 1,000 people every day. After the explosion, the number of followers increased by 10,000 in a week, and it didn't stop there. It quickly went from 10,000 to 20,000.
The Kemono Friends Twitter account had been given the boost that it needed. Suddenly, positive reception started to spread on social media, and Kaji followed up on this by posting content that he thought would be genuinely meaningful for its followers.
I started to retweet information like Tasmanian devil genes have evolved, and to upload photos of animals I took when I visited Tamazu onto the official Kemono Friends Twitter account, and I tried to provide useful information that will please fans who love animals. If you follow the official account and all you get is endless information about goods, events, and anime, it won't expand your worldview, and it won't be interesting, right? It would be the greatest joy for someone who makes things if a character or anime sparks an interest in a certain thing and expands people's world.
By the time Kemono Friends was halfway through its 12-episode season, it had exploded. The official Twitter account was sharing educational information about real animals, which inspired animal lovers to check out the show. Businessmen were coming home from work and watching a show which allowed them to zone out and relax before bed. And the show was suitable for families to share with their kids. The show was simulcast on Crunchyroll with English subtitles, and sparked some interest in America as well. Almost overnight, the narrative of the failed phone app about animal girls has a poorly animated anime adaptation now turned into the narrative that a small team of hardworking animators managed to save a dying series, and its viewership numbers are breaking records. 2 months after the first season of the anime finished airing, the first episode of the show reached a record-breaking 10 million views on Nico Nico Doga, a Japanese video sharing site. Unbelievably, Japan was in the middle of Kemono Friends fever. So what made the show so popular? And why did the first episode spark so little attention? If you ask me, the issue of the first episode is that it has the misfortune of being the first episode. It has to establish what Sandstar is, what friends are, what Celians are, and introduce the tone and the world of the show. Remember, Fukuhara said that he wanted the show to let viewers relax and say, "This is fun," without really thinking about anything. This is hard to do when the first episode has to establish several borderline sci-fi concepts. If the show's greatest strength is letting its viewers turn their brains off, then the show's weakest episode is necessarily going to be the one which has to educate them. That said, the first episode does some really good things, including the specific way it introduces one of its two leads. You see this creature resting in a tree, but it's hard to make out who or what they are. It cuts to a close-up of a cat's ears twitching, but no other part of the animal is seen. It then cuts to their tail swinging, and even though the animation is choppy, there's a clear weight to it. The tail is bushy at the end, and the tip wags in a wide arc, even though the base of the tail only has subtle movements. Every frame was considered and animated in a realistic way, making it feel like you're watching a real cattail swinging despite the simple animation. The attention to detail leaps off the screen. Finally, it cuts to a panning shot, which starts out still centered on the cat's tail, but also reveals her spotted pelt. As the camera pans, more of her is seen until it's revealed that this cat-like creature has some human characteristics as well. But her face is still unseen, so we can't be sure of how human she really is yet, especially once the focus is once again drawn to her distinctly cat-like ears. It cuts to one last shot, which reveals her full figure and establishes that yes, this character does have a human face. This is the perfect way to establish not only the character of Serval, but also to establish what a friend is. Had the anime simply shown the viewer a cat girl, not only would it likely remind people of the cat girl and playboy punny archetypes and all of the sexual connotations they carry with them, but it also wouldn't have established anything about the nature or behavior of a friend. How human are they? How animal are they? These questions could have easily gone unanswered in a lesser anime. Instead, Kemono Friends brilliantly and specifically establishes only Serval's animal-like traits. Serval is presented as an animal first and an anime girl second. Doing this tells the viewer a couple of things. For one, it informs the audience that these friends are more animal than they are human. Ergo, this animal girl is innocent and will be treated with the same kindness and innocence you might treat a real cat with. For two, the attention to detail promises viewers that no matter how simple the animation might look, the creatives behind the show know what they're doing, and none of the important details will be overlooked. This attention to detail was one of the most important things for the animation team to get right. Because the show is safe for work and the characters resemble humans more than they resemble real-life animals, the team was limited in the ways with which they could present the characters. For example, they couldn't demonstrate to Serval's dietary habits because they're predators, and that would mean showing Serval eating other friends. For obvious reasons, they couldn't show that, and they also couldn't show an animal's mating rituals either. This meant that extra focus had to be put into making the movements realistic. The amount of detail in Serval's tail wagging is an example of this, and when Serval jumps to escape from some Celians later in the episode, extra attention was put into making sure that her jump was made to match the movements of a real Serval cat, according to Fukuhara. This attention to detail also allows them to foreshadow a big reveal. A character is seen stumbling through the grass in a distinctly human-like way, but at the same time, the idea of an animal girl has just been established, so the viewer might still think to themselves, is this an animal girl or a human or something else? A first-time viewer might not even realize that there's sparkling dust in the air, another thing which hints at the big reveal. Serval notices this new character and pounces on her, shown through a POV shot of Serval running through the grass. This is also important because it proves to the viewers yet again that despite the limited animation, a variety of shots and techniques will be used to tell this story. Just trust us. We'll take good care of you.
Yay! Why is this happening? You want to play Hunter and Prey, huh? I
I like how in the English DVD commentary, the actresses burst out laughing during this shot.
Please, don't eat me! I wasn't gonna!
2 minutes into the first episode and the main characters are having their first conversation. Here's where we learn about the traits which will come to define them. Serval is fun-loving and innocent. Not just childish innocent, no, she really doesn't seem to know much about the world. She doesn't even know what a human is, immediately assuming that this new character must be some kind of animal who has her own territory. She also refers to signposts as flat things, clearly lacking the human framework to understand what it is. This can convey to the viewer either that Serval is a big goof who doesn't know much about anything, or that the world in which Kemono Friends takes place has very little in common with the real world, right down to there not being any humans. The thing is, both of these things are true, so regardless of what you take away from this scene, you've probably got it right. We also learn about this girl, who has no memories and who Serval names Kaban, which is the Japanese word for bag, because she's wearing one.
Like, kaban?
What's a kaban? A type of friend?
No, it means bag. Bag.
Her main trait is her ability to figure things out. She can start a scene completely clueless, but then use logic and inference to figure out what is going on and how to fix whatever problems might be happening. These traits make the duo really great to watch work together. Serval is the playful one, while Kaban is the shy one.
Guide. I'm the Savannah guide.
Serval is hot-headed and has some knowledge about what's going on in the park, but not enough to really fix issues on her own. Meanwhile, Kaban is timid and lets Serval take charge while she is still figuring things out. Once she does figure things out, then she's able to take over and lead the episode from there. Most of the episodes have this very satisfying flow to them, in which Serval introduces Kaban to a new area of the park and uncovers a problem. Then, Kaban studies the problem while Serval messes around with her own charmingly half-baked solutions, until Kaban uses what she learned to actually solve it properly. Serval starts out most episodes as the more knowledgeable one, but ends the episodes impressed by Kaban's ability to reason, and Kaban starts out most episodes shy and passive, but ends the episodes as the clear hero who saved the day. Kaban wants to know what type of animal she is, and the two come to realize Kaban was probably born from the most recent Sandstar eruption. In the original game, Sandstar was from outer space, but it's been rewritten in the anime to come from a volcanic eruption, specifically an eruption from this volcano, which is right in the middle of Japari Park. Serval agrees to take Kaban to the old library, where Kaban might be able to learn about what type of animal she is. And there we go! That's the setup for the first 7 episodes of this 12-episode anime. Serval is guiding Kaban through the park so that she can discover what kind of animal she is at the library. It becomes increasingly obvious throughout their walk through the savannah that this is a very different Japari Park than seen previously. Gone are the humans. Gone is the zoo-like amusement park atmosphere. This series takes place in a Japari Park without humans, a world where only friends live. The friends are all kind of silly, but it's charming because of the context. They're more animal than human, and because of that, it makes sense why they don't fully understand things which may seem obvious to viewers. An example of this is in episode 7, when they meet some friends who don't understand how to cook, and Kaban has to help them. It feels endearing because this is a world of only friends, and park guides like Mirai and Nana aren't there to assist them. This show could have very easily devolved into a voyeuristic, look at this animal girl act ditzy type of anime. But it doesn't do that because of the context that these characters are animals trying their best to survive in a world made for humans. The show also recognizes that each friend has their own strengths and weaknesses, so none of them are ever portrayed as strictly useless or as nothing but comic relief. They all have chances to do good and chances to screw up. Everyone feels real.
Stick with me, and you'll be just fine.
You're incredible, Miss Serval. I don't have anything like that. Even just following you is hard for me. Whatever kind of animal I am, I guess I'm a pretty pathetic one, huh?
Hey, chin up! It's okay. Other friends always say I'm super clumsy. Everybody's got their faults, so don't let that get you down. Besides, you're a really hard worker, so I'm sure we'll figure out what you're good at before you know it. Just you wait and see.
Serval and Kaban's rapport with each other is one of the other things which sticks out about this episode, but really, the whole series. They just feel really good to spend time with. In film school, they teach you that movies are like the equivalent of spending a wild weekend with a friend, and episodes of television are kinda like catching up with a friend every week at a coffee shop. These characters really capture that coffee shop feel, and the comfortable atmosphere of talking to someone you trust for an hour or so every week.
Servals live near thickly planted streams and rivers in the savannas of Central and Southern Africa.
Another fun thing this show does is share animal facts around the commercial breaks. This gives it a very similar feeling to something like National Geographic, and helps animal fans stay interested. It makes sense, considering Kaji's belief that expanding a viewer's worldview is a great goal to strive towards. But wait, you might think to yourself. This sounds adorable, but also like a show for babies. Everyone is good at something, educational segments like, what is this, the Japanese version of Dora the Explorer? Right when you might start to think like that. A Celian.
Meow, 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 meow!
Serval destroys it with her claws and warns Kaban that she needs to learn how to hide or else she might not survive. Suddenly, tension. There is a tangible threat to our characters, and when we see how much Kaban struggles to climb a tree, we see that Kaban is not yet able to protect herself from that very real threat. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and Kaban needs Serval if she wants to stay alive. But once Serval helps her climb the tree, and she sees how beautiful the savannah is, the mood is lifted again. It's not all positive, but the show isn't about to get all somber on us either. We're introduced to Hippo, and soon after that, they have to fight their first big Celian. And if the show hasn't sold you on it yet, the music that plays during this fight had better.
Huh? It doesn't have a stone! Why not? Why doesn't it have a stone? Where am I supposed to aim? Miss Serval! Look! On its back!
Kaban gets a chance to distract it with some quick thinking when she makes a paper airplane. But she also gets absolutely wrecked because she's still got a lot to learn, and Serval defeats it. This is important. That paper airplane is like a boomerang, because it comes back later.
Wow! What was that? That was amusing! That thing that flew through the air! What was it? How'd you do that? Can you teach me? Pretty please?
You mean the paper airplane? I just made it.
Serval and Kaban part ways when they reach the gate for the savannah area, and Serval tells Kaban that she'll do great on her own because of her ingenuity. I wonder if this sound effect from Metal Gear Solid 3 is what inspired this doujinshi I found, where Naked Snake visits Japari Park. Oh, stick with me. We'll get to this soon.
I think we've finished life. We've 100%ed it. It's complete.
Only seconds after Kaban is left alone, Serval sneaks up on her and they reunite because cats are curious, and I'm not even mad about the 5-second turnaround on the bait and switch. The rapport they have with each other is so earnest that even the threat of Serval leaving makes Kaban's moment alone feel empty, so seeing them together is as much of a relief as it is heartwarming. This episode manages to endear you so much to these characters that it's already hard to imagine them without each other. The episode ends with the introduction of Lucky Beast, a robot companion who was invented at a time when humans still roamed the park, which builds intrigue as to what happened to the humans. What about Mirai? And Nana? This show doesn't care about Nana, but what about everyone else? On top of that, Lucky Beast conspicuously has the same voice actress as Kaban in both English and Japanese. It also ignores Serval completely, talking exclusively to Kaban. After the credits, there's a cliffhanger with Arison and Phoenix saying that they need to track down Serval to prevent a catastrophe which could end the park, and that's as good a hint as any to say that bad things have been going on. Honestly, episode 1 isn't even bad. I remembered it being less interesting than later episodes, but I loved it upon rewatch. If I had to guess, episode 1 probably wasn't given a fair chance due to the bad publicity after the game shut down, so viewers were more pessimistic about the episode because of it. I also have the benefit of enjoying the show already, which made any issues the first episode might have had less noticeable. I remember not really being into episode 1 when I first watched it, and I thought my experience was common since episode 1 didn't do great during its premiere, but really, it's a charming little episode in its own right. I rewatched the series with my partner to hear an unbiased perspective on it, and their reaction was that episode 1 absolutely had the tone of a Dora the Explorer episode, except the intrigue lifted the episode up tremendously. The mysteries surrounding what happened to the park and who Kaban is were strong enough hooks that they didn't want to stop watching. On top of that, they said that the show had a uniquely video game-esque structure. Serval calls her claws her attack, and the duo are set to explore a new area every episode, as if they were levels. Episode 1 even ended with a boss fight of sorts. Not to mention the animation calling back to the PlayStation 2 and 3 era. It makes sense given the series' origin as a mobile game, but considering how this anime is entirely made for television, this structure being retained is notable and distinguishes it from many other series which also have a casual or upbeat tone. As a nerd, my partner found these video game aspects to be really interesting jumping off points for theory crafting, and I'm sure that this structure helped inspire the research teams on Twitter to speculate about what might happen next. That all said, episode 2 is when the proverbial fire started spreading, so what about episode 2 made it so much better than the first one? I wouldn't say that episode 2 is necessarily better written, but it definitely has more intrigue. Episode 1 only introduced one friend, besides the main characters, and the threat was a monster which could be destroyed with attacks. Episode 2 introduces 2 new friends in detail, and we see more than half a dozen side friends, including Ocelot and Tasmanian Devil,
Hey, name's Tasmanian Devil!
who will be important years in the future. The world feels so much larger than it did in the savannah. Not to mention, the problem that the duo has to solve isn't a physical threat so much as it's a logic problem. Kaban and Serval need to get a bus across a river which does not have a bridge. The editing is much faster in this episode, especially during her attempts to transport the bus, featuring a lot of fun gags.
Yum, 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 yum,
How about we all try holding it up while we wade across?
It's sinking! Huh? Where's Kaban? Well, she was just here!
Kaban eventually figures out how to string together pieces of wood to make a makeshift bridge, which Serval can use as platforms to leap the bus across. While Serval being strong enough to carry the front of a bus is a leap in logic, the fact that the characters have to solve a logic problem, which involves various friends helping out with their unique abilities, allows all of the characters to shine in ways they could not before. They team up with Small-Clawed Otter and Jaguar, who can swim, and it's only because of them that the bridge can be restored. I'll go over the broad strokes of the episodes, but my intention isn't to do a play-by-play of the whole series. My main goal, if anything, is to compile information and maybe convince you that this anime is worth watching if you haven't watched it already. What I will say is that even if the writing of episode 2 is about on par with the already good episode 1, the show is able to spread its wings now that the premise has been established, and this episode manages to be even quicker and the moments more impactful, even though there isn't a single Celian in this episode. The English dub, which I will talk about in more detail later, also has possibly my favorite line read in the entirety of animation.
That's weird, it just went quiet.
Sure did.
Then, did the bus die? Is it dead?
This bit is pretty good too.
It can be charged on the roof of the Japari Cafe, at the top of the mountain over there. Please look.
No!
Yeah!
I also want to bring up the ED, or ending theme, because this is the first episode in which it plays, and this is maybe my favorite ED of all time. It features still black and white images of real-life abandoned theme parks, and you can see shadowy silhouettes of where friends used to be in the shots. It's morbid, and like nothing else seen in the anime. If someone told me this was from a horror show, I might believe them. The music playing is also unlike anything else in the show. It's a rock guitar song with vocals by Myuhan, who has this incredible voice that feels like a child trapped in an adult's body. Maybe it's just me, but every time I hear this song, I hear someone's inner child trying to cry out, and it's so ridiculously powerful. Combined with the shots of the empty park and with the light reverb on her vocals, she sounds so alone. But the guitar reassures you that she's strong, and the song itself is all about the beauty of meeting new people and letting them impact your life. But also about how you'll have to say goodbye someday, and that's okay, and my god is this a tearjerker for me. This ED is really powerful, and nothing in this show prepares you for how hard it will hit. And that's a good thing. Also, did you know that Myuhan wrote a theme song for the Pokemon Eevee? Her stage name could also be a reference to the Pokemon Mew. Oh hey, and she's also the Japanese voice for Shikabane in Agretsuko. Neat.
私、屍。何これどういう偶然?
The ending of episode 2 is apparently what got discussion started about the show, and I can only imagine that it's because of this part with the shadow flying overhead. I find this interesting because this seems like far less of a tease than the scene of Oraisan and Fennec in episode 1. I'm glad it got the ball rolling, but I have to imagine everything else about this episode expanding the world of the anime is what made it so popular, rather than just this ending in particular. The third episode answers the question about the shadow overhead, revealing it to be Toki, or Japanese crested ibis. Kaban is separated by Toki as they travel up a mountain to charge the bus's dead battery, and Serval follows on foot. Separating the two leads is a bold move considering how great they are together, but it also makes sense since it gives us a chance to see how Kaban behaves on her own, and it forces her to open up a bit instead of letting Serval always take charge. This is also probably why Toki is such a great friend. She always stood out to me as an especially impactful character, even though she isn't given much more characterization than Hippo from episode 1, or Small-Clawed Otter from episode 2. Despite the fact that Toki is kind of a one-off character whose main gag is her bad singing, she always stuck out as one of the more memorable friends in the series, and it might be because it's with her that Kaban is forced to really express herself and develop without Serval's help for the first time. Moments like Toki encouraging Kaban to sing, and then being impressed when she does, thus giving Kaban a boost in confidence, are really important in growing her character from the quiet kid in the savannah to a bold girl who can fearlessly stand up to the Celians. Unfortunately, this does come at the expense of Serval's character in this episode, who does literally nothing for about 2/3 of it. At the top of the mountain, they reconvene and find a cafe run by Alpaca Suri, and they have some tea while waiting for the bus's battery to recharge. I really like this scene for a few reasons. For one, it reminds me of the interview with Fukuhara, where he said that he and Yoshizaki started writing the anime while at a cafe together. I wonder if that experience inspired this scene at all. A few friends talking about life over some drinks, in a scene probably conceived by two people enjoying their time together over some drinks. I also like how the scene has no tension. Keep in mind, the past 2.5 episodes have been entirely goal-oriented. Lighthearted, sure, but the characters were always going somewhere to achieve a goal and running into setbacks. This is the first time the characters are able to all sit down and have a relaxed conversation as friends to pass the time. Alpaca Suri and Toki being a part of that conversation really helps them feel like a part of the group, and Serval and Kaban talking like pals instead of as a guide and a follower is great too. Kaban solves another logic problem purely out of her desire to help Alpaca Suri attract customers to her cafe, once again combining Kaban's ability to think out of the box and the friends' skills, this time at cutting grass, to make a big sign for the cafe. Overall, it's a microcosm of Kaban's problem-solving abilities, which helps to show her growth, and seeing 4 friends working together definitely inspired some would-be fans back in 2017 to keep watching the show. We get one final rendezvous with Otter and Jaguar before Kaban and Serval head into the desert area. We also get another cliffhanger with Rysarn and Fennec. This episode has the same basic structure as episode 2, but with more focus put on Kaban and the friends' personalities. Episode 4 introduces another fan favorite, Tsuchinoko, a cryptid rather than a real animal. Tsuchinokos are fat, alcoholic, and stumpy snake-like creatures from Japanese folklore. These mythological creatures are called yokai, and Tsuchinoko is this adorable one from Yokai Watch. This episode also introduces Sandcat, voiced by Muhan. Tsuchinoko is part tsundere and part shut-in, absolutely lending to her appeal. She seems creepy and defensive of her territory in an almost stalker-esque way, but she also gets scared easily and has a hyperfixation on relics from the past, back when the park still had people in it. She reminds me a lot of Fafnir from Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, since they're both characters with mythological origins who logically have a strong connection to their homes and to their belongings, but all of that results in them basically being weeaboo shut-ins when put in a human context.
Whatever.
The show naturally attracts video game fans due to its structure, so a character which in many regards is a nerdy weeb is kind of perfect.
What the heck do you think you're doing, Cat? These ruins are ancient, you know?
I'm sorry, I didn't know!
Her home is an underground maze, which feels like something right out of Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider. They have a run-in with some Celians who Tsuchinoko saves them from, establishing her as the first non-main character since Hippo to be reliable in the face of danger. When Kaban figures out that all of the signs seem to point to an exit, she manages to free them from the labyrinth, only for it to be revealed that the labyrinth was actually an amusement park attraction that has long since been abandoned.
What an incredible find! My theory was right! This place was totally built for entertainment purposes! And even cooler than that, Well, it's probably not on any map, on account of all the lava. That would definitely hinder a public opening, you know?
The 5th episode serves a very important role in the series. Serval and Kaban meet Prairie Dog and Beaver. They're both trying to build houses, but neither of them are able to succeed on their own, so Kaban helps them use their skills to build a house which they can both live in together. It's easy to view this episode as a direct downgrade from episode 4, since that episode had both action and it ended on a cliffhanger about the past of Japari Park. But it's actually a great episode for endearing you to the friend group. A lot of time is spent with Beaver and Prairie Dog. Beaver is constantly fearful that she isn't good enough, something which a lot of people can relate to. She's also great at planning things, but to a fault.
Oh, what if you made a little miniature house first, as a model? How's it going?
I thought I'd start with a model of the model.
You don't have to go that far!
Anyone who struggles with decision paralysis or anxiety can see a part of themselves in Beaver. My partner had enjoyed the series up until this point, but consistently made jokes about the animation being stilted and the characters being happy-go-lucky, until this episode. They repeatedly related themselves to Beaver, and after this episode, they seemed far more curious about the fates of the characters. Prairie Dog is the exact opposite of Beaver. She always dives headfirst into situations and causes problems because she'll cut down trees before considering how she'll use them. I'm sure anyone who doesn't relate to Beaver can see a part of themselves in Prairie Dog. These opposite character traits lead to a pretty obvious solution to their problem.
Hey, what if the two of you worked on the same project and built something together, you know?
Build it together?
But I would feel bad if she worked at my pace. It would slow her down.
And all of Madame Beaver's great plans. I'd end up destroying them.
How about if Prairie focuses on the building parts, while Beaver makes the model and then concentrates on just giving directions?
While the conclusion might be obvious, that isn't to the detriment of the episode. The ability to see yourself in one of these two opposite characters, who end up befriending each other by the end, is this episode's greatest strength. Up until now, we as an audience have been allowed to watch these friends enjoying their lives. But here is when we are allowed to become a part of the series ourselves. The ability to personally relate to Beaver and Prairie Dog's wide array of traits allow us a window to view these characters as people first. We're not watching a friend group from the sidelines anymore. We're entering the group ourselves, using Beaver or Prairie Dog as audience surrogates, depending on which one is more relatable to you. This is the first episode which I would truly call Tenoshi, in that all it tries to be is fun, and it entirely succeeds at that. Back during episode 1, I said that episodes of television are kind of like catching up with friends every week at a coffee shop. This entire episode perfectly encompasses that feeling, and allows the viewer a chance to feel like they're spending time with people they care about. It makes you feel happy at all costs. And in doing so, it makes you feel a genuine and innocent connection with these characters. You don't want to see them get hurt, for the same reason you wouldn't want to see your real-life buddy get hurt. From a plot perspective, the house which Kaban inspires Beaver and Prairie Dog to build is impressive. It far surpasses the platforms which Kaban came up with in episode 2. And this can act as a visual indicator for how far Kaban has come and how much more capable she is now than she was before. And on a completely separate note, this episode also has one of the most memorable gags in the series.
Nice to meet ya! My name is Prairie Dog. Shall I give you a traditional prairie greeting?
Did anyone else watch that new season of Futurama on Hulu?
No means no.
What are you doing? Stop that!
Captain, respect their customs.
No? Just me? We do get another Arai-san and Fennec scene, and Arai-san mentions a treasure waiting for her when she finally catches up to Serval. It's at this point that the feather in Kaban's hat and her voice being shared with Lucky Beast might start to become curious for anyone who has been following Kemono Friends since the beginning. But we'll check in on that again later. Episode 6 starts off with a bang.
Intruders! State your business!
Because Kaban becomes a prisoner of war.
What is this thing? Some kind of new weapon?
West or east? Where'd you come from?
Error.
If you're enemies, we'll take you down right here.
Lion and Moose are both introduced with their own armies, and it's up to Kaban to find a truce, or else she won't be able to reach the nearby library.
Where were you born?
I
will deal with them. Leave us.
Yes, ma'am!
However, Lion's rough exterior is immediately shaken when we hear her real voice.
Don't eat us. I'm tired. Huh? You guys can relax too. Gotta keep up appearances and act leader-like in front of the pride though, you know?
I loved this bait and switch. Not only is it entirely fitting for a lion to look prideful, but then actually just be a big house cat, but it also manages to turn a social problem into a personal problem. The episode has a strong hook, but as soon as the dramatic tension is established, the episode switches gears to let the viewer identify with Lion on a personal level. You get the almost intimate privilege of seeing behind her fierce exterior, so you can see her for who she really is. This is a fantastic literary trick to make you feel closer to her. Immediately after, she reveals that she doesn't want to be at war at all, because her soldiers expect her to be a strong leader even though she would rather just relax. Moose's army keeps attacking her, and Lion's soldiers are powerful enough that they always win, which emboldens Moose's army to try again. The only way for Lion to get what she wants is for Moose to somehow win the war without it being obvious that Lion threw the fight. It's a unique dynamic. A general wants to lose so that they don't have so much responsibility anymore, but her opponents are so strategically bad that she keeps unintentionally winning anyway.
But they keep doing this dumb thing where they attack in a straight line! My soldiers end up beating them before they even make it to me!
Kaban and Serval are thus hired as double agents, fighting alongside Moose to give Moose's army the edge in combat. These stakes completely throw everything you expected Friends to be like out of the window, while also not betraying the tone of the show. Despite how happy Friends seem to be, they can have conflict and be at war and take people as prisoners. However, they're doing it out of their natural instincts and not because they're evil, meaning that this violent, natural problem can be resolved if both sides can find a reasonable compromise. Sometimes friends fight, but that doesn't mean they can't be friends again. Immediately after the last episode allows viewers to feel like a part of the friend group, this episode comes along and poses a conflict between friends which needs to be resolved. It's okay though, because we're introduced to possibly the #1 favorite fan character in the franchise, and that is why we side with Moose around here. Shoebill is very popular. This episode has some good gags, some fun action, some great bloopers.
He's not our target, Moose!
Every woman is my target!
And it ultimately resolves with the generals finding a compromise, which allows them to be friendly rivals. Kaban teaches the generals how to play sports, and they do that instead of trying to fight each other. It's a happy ending to a conflict which seemed natural and shockingly violent for this show, all resolved because we got to focus on the characters as unique individuals with their own desires instead of as warlords. This is a standout episode with beautifully presented characters, and also Shoebill is in it. That's enough for it to be amazing, honestly. We also get another cliffhanger, this time having a Raison reveal that she knows how to make Lucky Beast talk, something only Kaban has been able to do so far. However, there is a more noteworthy reveal than that in this episode. The reveal of Shoebill's voice. All throughout the episode, she has been creepily staring at Serval and Kaban silently. It's only right before the credits that she actually talks, and, well...
You... Aren't you human?
Episode 7, Japari Library, begins exactly where the last one left off. Shoebill tells Kaban that she's a human, and suddenly, the goal of reaching the library is thrown into question. This is it. They reach the library in this episode, but the series-long goal of discovering Kaban's identity has now been resolved, meaning that the new burning question which Kaban has to ask about at the library is where human territory is, and if humans are even still around anymore, since we haven't seen any yet. Before continuing though, I want to take a moment to talk about Shoebill. If the fan response has shown us anything about these characters, it's that people deeply identify with Shoebill. Her reveal is incredible. Instead of the tomboyish personality you might expect from her silence, her staring, and her clothes, she's actually incredibly shy and smart. She has a feminine voice and a quiet demeanor. She might be off-putting at times, and she might be awkward enough to stay silent most of the time and to stutter when she does talk, but she's also the one who answers the series-long question of what species Kaban is. If I had to speculate, a lot of people probably personally identified with Shoebill because of these exact traits. She's sweet, smart, and shy, but her awkwardness and potentially off-putting demeanor cause people to judge her. She's a great person if given the chance to be, and she just wants to be friends with everyone, but her nature can push people away. A lot of people I know have admitted to feeling like this in their own lives. And I'm sure that people who feel like outcasts despite being good people can relate to Shoebill a lot. In short, I really like her character, and it's no wonder why a friend with only a couple of minutes of actual screen time managed to stick the landing so well and be remembered fondly by so many people. I like it.
Thank you for all your help.
And thank you for solving that mystery. Helps a lot. But why didn't you speak up before? You freaked us out.
I'm sorry. I just kinda stare a bunch. I don't mean to be weird or anything. I know being super quiet can be unsettling, but I want to be friends. The best of friends.
That's so creepy!
Rude!
As Kaban and Serval finally reach the library, the realization that the park has suffered some sort of cataclysm comes to the forefront. It's always been a thing, but now it's actually addressed since they want to know which habitat humans live in, and nobody seems to know. The goal of reaching the library becomes less about learning what kind of animal Kaban is, and more about trying to find out exactly what happened to Japari Park to leave it so destroyed and without humans. Kaban shows off her reading abilities in an overgrown forest maze, and Serval is impressed.
Wow!
It's kind of like a house in here.
Hey, check it out! There's a thingy! What is it?
Gotta establish how good she is at reading now so that the episode makes sense. They reach the library and meet the professors, a Eurasian eagle owl and an owl whose name I'm probably not allowed to say. They tell Kaban that they need her to cook food for them before they'll tell her anything about humans, because they have massive brains and food will give them energy to use their knowledge. And Kaban agrees. She has to warm up a cooking pot, but thanks to her discovering
Prometheus' gift,
she's able to do so, and she makes them a spicy curry.
Weird. Looking at it up close, this dish actually appears to be quite frightful. Is it really supposed to look like this?
Yes, I think so. Oh, hold on. You're supposed to use those tools to eat it. It's pretty hot.
Do you guys actually know anything about cooking?
Of course we do. We were just testing you two, that's all.
In exchange, they reiterate what we already know about Kaban being a human.
Kaban, you are... a human! And they're not surprised at all.
But also add on the small, minuscule detail that
The humans, they all went extinct.
They're extinct?
One day, they just suddenly disappeared.
But why?
It's possible that they couldn't survive here, or they could...
You said you'd give us a bonus prize, didn't you? What is it?
Concert tickets. Triple B comeback concert tickets are impossible to get just anywhere. And these even get you VIP treatment.
now we're talking. We're seeing Pep-Papu. Oh, also Arai-san gets another cliffhanger, but more importantly, Pep-Papu. If you remember from a million years ago earlier this chapter, this idol group, full name Penguin Performance Project, was meant to be one of the serialized elements of the show, alongside Arai-san and Fennec. You would see them in every episode, and they would give the series a loose sense of continuity. They were introduced back during the second Kemono Friends Cafe promotion, and they're all over the advertising for the series. Pep-Papu is a big deal, one of the defining bits of iconography for Kemono Friends. But until now, they've only been seen during these Triple P preview segments at the end of each episode. I haven't talked about them yet because they don't actually progress the story. They're separate segments, which basically act as, on the next episode, teasers.
This week we'll introduce the alpaca!
Paka.
These sections are actually, secretly, incredibly charming. Instead of the typical end-of-episode teasers, which so many shows have, where various shots of the next episodes are shown in context, which make them seem far more exciting than they actually are, Triple P Preview instead has these stick puppet versions of the Penguin idol group Pep-Papu wobble around while the voice actresses have a pretty candid discussion about one of the next episode's topics, like an animal or an environment.
Paka.
Apparently they spit. Is that their attack? Maybe it's a form of affection. Is it marketing? I mean marking?
Marketing?
Next time, mountain!
Kemono Friends even managed to make episode previews entertaining. What the heck? They usually end with someone saying something weird or tripping up a line and everyone laughing and breaking character. I like it! The chemistry is so natural and you can tell they had fun making it. And seeing 5 friends share a laugh over one of them tripping up what they're supposed to say is really effective at making you fall in love with their characters.
This week we're learning about the brown bear. Apparently they hate the smell of snakes.
Do they smell bad?
Maybe, but I bet they taste good.
Who the heck says that?
The god of snake eating. No, it's not a thing.
All this to say, we haven't actually seen Pepapu in person yet, but we're already endeared enough to their camaraderie that we're excited to see an episode all about them. Basically, you know how great it is to watch blooper outtakes from movies and how fun it is to watch your favorite actors laugh and break character?
The ground here is... it's full of holes!
Having this many holes makes your tunnels unstable. I'm unstable too, Dirt.
Well, Kemono Friends captured that charm in these segments, and now we finally get to see the main event. Episode 8, Pepapu Live. Or Triple P Live, depending on your translation. Kaban and Serval are out on the waterfront when they see the Pepapu concert hall. The professors helped organize their debut event, which is why they had tickets. Not just tickets, but special platinum tickets that give them a backstage pass. It turns out, this is the 3rd generation of the Pepapu idol group. What do I mean by generation? This is actually really important for understanding the Kemono Friends timeline, so listen up. Remember back to the manga. Welcome to Japari Park takes place during the 1st generation. Sandstar had created the Friends and people had found them relatively recently, so Japari Park was new and meant to capitalize on the discovery of Friends. Generation 1 was thus a time when humans were at the park and things were good. Then things were bad. The Celians attacked and the Friends, alongside park guide Mirai, fought them back during the mobile game. Sometime between then and now, the Friends in the park must have either died or been consumed by Celians, which reverts them back into their animal forms and erases their memories. That would have been the end of the 1st generation, and the 2nd generation would have begun the next time a Sandstar eruption occurred. The Sandstar would have hit various animals, for example, a real Serval cat, and turned them into friends. This example would result in a Generation 2 Serval. This cycle happened one more time, and then a 3rd Sandstar eruption occurs and creates the 3rd generation. So, our Serval is a Generation 3 Serval, and this iteration of Pepapu is the 3rd generation of their idol group. Got that? If not, it's okay, because you wouldn't be the only one concerned, since we see that backstage things aren't going well. One of the penguins is stressing out, she's having a hard time. Serval and Kaban try to watch the concert from a tree since they can get a better view up there, and meet the Pepapu mega fan Margay. She's a total weeb, and I love her.
Are you here to see Triple P too?
Of course I am. I couldn't miss their first big live event. To think that I'm able to watch the 3rd generation's debut. I'm so lucky that I was born in time to see this momentous occasion.
Pepapu goes on stage to introduce themselves, and they stumble over their words.
Jen, you're up.
I'm the Gentoo penguin, Jen!
I'm Hululu. Tell them what kind of penguin you are.
Humboldt penguin.
And a legend was born. Backstage, they beat themselves up for struggling on stage, and they compare themselves to their previous generation counterparts. The thing is, they lack perspective. Most people are going to be harder on themselves than they would be on others because they're aware of their own faults and insecurities, but not necessarily what other people feel and go through. The girls rely on each other for support and critique, and because of that, they accidentally created an echo chamber and lack an outside perspective. Everyone outside loves them, but since they only ask each other for advice instead of the fans, they always get harsher critiques than maybe they actually deserve. However, when Kaban and Serval use their backstage passes to visit, they bring along Margay, and it immediately becomes clear that this stage has no security, and Pepapu are in immense danger of fans rushing in without passes. They were only given the 2 tickets, and yet brought a 3rd person along. But this outside perspective is exactly what they needed. because Marge loves seeing them rehearse, and focuses on how well each girl embodies their role rather than criticizing any minor differences. I.e., yeah, Hululu messed up, but that's exactly what we want to see from her. She's the best at being the Humboldt Penguin of the group, even if the Humboldt Penguin isn't necessarily perfect. I mean, she is perfect, but that's beside the point.
You were a meowsing!
I agree.
That was the best! The absolute best! Rocker's natural pep. She fits the rock hopper role to a T and really gives off that let's rock kind of feeling. And Jen, she's overflowing with exactly the stuff a perfect idol is made of. I can't get enough of how she's all, I'll do my best. And Emperor being all like, am I good enough? It's
life, class. That's what animation means. Movement. Your characters can move in any style at all, limited only by the boundaries of your own imagination.
The group Princess, her passion for bringing idols back to the park. Work your way up from nothing. Practice makes perfect. A truly a penguin with high bone density.
All of this positivity reassures most of the girls except for Princess, the royal penguin, because she has no one to look up to. Previous generations didn't have a royal penguin in them.
I'm the best one here. Why would I be self-conscious?
Princess,
do whatever you want.
Princess blows up at the group and storms out because she put too much pressure on herself to be perfect, since unlike everyone else, she can't put her role into perspective. She feels unnecessary, since royal penguins were never in the group before, so why would they need one now? In her own words,
"They can pull this off fine without me! They're all the real idols!"
Well,
see, they're fine. Just as I thought. They stuck with me even though they didn't want to.
but you know, once we gave it a try, the singing and dancing turned out to be tons of fun.
Not to mention doing it as a group. It's all thanks to Princess.
We wouldn't be here without her. And she set up this whole event after begging the professor for so long.
This is what Kemono Friends is all about. Marge covers her Princess with a fun nod to how Marges can mimic the voices of other animals, and with Princess back in the group, we get a full song and dance sequence featuring the leading song from an album which wouldn't be released until 2018, one real-world year later.
It's called Sky Dreamer!
Thanks to all of her help and encouragement, Marge made the manager of the group, and honestly, between sneaking backstage and dragging their leader against her will, all to get rewarded with a promotion, this is an extremely accurate depiction of what it's like to work in media. Marge will do amazing. The group hangs out to talk about life, and Kaban tells them that she's a human looking for her territory.
You're looking for a type of animal called humans.
I've never heard of them. Where do they even live?
If I'm not mistaken, they were last seen down at the harbor, weren't they?
Huh? Are you sure about that?
Is it possible that humans fled the park and aren't actually extinct? The mystery deepens. If Kaban can find an escape boat at the harbor and get off the island, she would be able to search for humans elsewhere. Her new goal is set: get to a boat and find mainland Japan. Also, this happens.
That reminds me of you, Emperor. You'd walk a real long way to your colony.
That's right, and I'd fast for 100 days, too. It was a pretty hard life, if I do say so myself.
I can't help but smile when I think about everything you went through.
They call that Schadenfreude.
Couldn't even pay attention all day, but you know that?
That, explains some of the art I've seen online. I wanted to cover this episode in more detail because this is the first time Kemono Friends dips into music and idol groups. Pepepu will come back multiple times, and Hululu in particular will go on to change this franchise multiple times. This episode is also a great microcosm of what makes the series work so well. You can find people on YouTube who discovered Kemono Friends because of Pepepu's musical performances. Episodes like this are what made people fall in love with these characters. And when moments like these are what this show has to offer, it becomes obvious why the anime is what sparked so much interest and love in the series, compared to what the mobile game's limited gameplay and storytelling had to offer.
No, I've
I've always felt this way. There's never been a royal penguin in the group before, so why would they even need me? It's fine. They don't need me, so I should stay away.
But isn't that why you made sure you practiced so hard? Margie told us all about it earlier. You formed the group, and you pushed yourself twice as hard as the others. You were the one that brought them this far, Princess.
Come on, let's go.
The amount of heart in this episode is bursting from the seams. From the quiet, tender moments to the song which the animators tried their best to bring to life. Episode 9, Snowy Mountain Area, starts in media res, with Serval dying in the cold. It cuts back to Kaban and Serval entering the area and being told by Lucky Beast about the hot springs, presumably the same ones which Silver Fox needed to visit to restore her memories after the snail Celian attack back in the mobile game. Lucky Beast teaches them about animals building huts in the snow to stay warm before having their own system freeze up.
Literally.
They get caught in a blizzard, and since Serval can't handle the cold, they end up stranded. Kaban uses her human ingenuity to build a snow hut to keep them warm, and manages to save Serval. It seems like they can wait for the blizzard to blow over, but then they hear voices outside. And then this happens.
Okay, got it.
Please don't eat me! There's two of them!
My name's Silver Fox, and this one's Ezo Red Fox.
Hello there.
I swear I've heard an ASMR creator with this exact voice before. This is the first time in which Silver Fox and Ezo Red Fox are explicitly seen as a pair. The mobile game focused more on Silver Fox, and a defining aspect of the manga is that Ezo Red Fox needs to be taken care of by Nana. Without Nana here, Ezo would lose one of her primary traits, her reliance on others. Likewise, Silver Fox took on a sort of guardian role in the mobile game, albeit things changed when she sorta got wrecked. Considering that, and the fact that both types of foxes in real life are just variations of the red fox, it's a pretty logical connection to make that they would work together during an era when humans aren't present. This connection would go on to become a big aspect of their characters in both fan and official art, with them constantly seen near each other in a very similar way to how the two owls are consistently shown to be together, one as the professor and one as her assistant. That said, Ezo's character would undergo a change, because unlike the manga, which presents her as a spoiled brat, the anime presents her as more lazy and immature.
It's working.
No video games. It's bath time.
I don't wanna. Let me play one level first.
Yeah! One level first!
Fun fact, that's the title screen music from the mobile game. The foxes help them reach the hot springs, and we get another lore reveal from Lucky Beast in an audio recording from the past.
Judging from yesterday's incident, it seems the ceruleans are stealing Sandstar. Or rather, I believe they may actually be eating it. If they tried to eat any of the friends, the skills and traits the friends received from the Sandstar might be lost. They could return to their original animal forms after that, or worst case scenario, they might be wiped out.
Like Lucky Beast, this woman also has the same voice actress as Kaban. The hot springs are actually cold springs because of a sulfur buildup preventing them from getting warm. Sulfur apparently attracts Celians, which is a big problem because that means fixing the hot springs will result in a Celian attack. This obviously leads to exactly that, a Celian lanch.
Wait, are those? They're ceruleans! Another grapes.
The group manages to escape because Kaban invents sledding, and Ezo uses her skills as a gamer to navigate the gang to safety.
Leave it to me. I've got gamer's reflexes. Silver Fox, more to the right.
Are you sure?
Why does Roxas look like Ventus?
They reach safety, and Kaban and Serval share a relaxing bath in the hot springs. This leads to a fun moment which has to be the direct inspiration for one of my favorite YouTube thumbnails of all time.
Kaban, aren't you gonna get in the water?
Yeah, but Is it okay to wear your clothes? I don't know why, but I feel like I should take them off first.
Wait, are you saying that yours can come off? Do mine do that too?
This is an incredible discovery!
Wait, hold on a second. I also somehow feel like I'm not supposed to be watching this.
The two get back on the bus and continue heading to the harbor, but they decide to rest at a lodge on the way. As the episode closes out, we get another Arai-san scene where she's still tracking down Serval, but this time we get an interesting reveal.
Wait, how are they born again?
When Sandstar touches an animal, they become a friend.
Or even the remains of animals, like bones.
That's right, Sandstar can make friends out of things besides living, breathing animals. The implication is that Kabon may have been born from a human remnant, not necessarily a whole living, breathing human being. Before continuing on to episode 10, I'd like to discuss Celians a bit. The first thing I want to bring up is something which I actually find a little bit disappointing: the origin of Celians. It's revealed soon that Celians are born when Sandstar strikes inorganic matter. This explanation fails to explain a lot of things. For one, we see remnants of Sandstar floating around the park but not reacting with anything. Inorganic matter is everywhere. You would expect Celians to be far more common if this truly is their origin. The reason why I'm disappointed is because episode 9 hinted at a far more interesting potential origin for them: sulfur. It's stated that Celians are attracted to sulfur, and that Sandstar comes from an eruption. In the real world, sulfur dioxide is one of the most common gases released in volcanic eruptions. Thanks for the info, by the way, International Volcanic Health Hazard Network. This means that the massive amounts of sulfur likely released during the Sandstar eruption could have been the reason why Celians were attracted to Japari Park in the first place. They could be aliens who recognized sulfur in the area and then found that they could feed off of friends. But instead, we just get this inorganic matter thing. This is by no means a large issue, but it is a little disappointing that they chose to retcon the Celians being aliens, only to replace their origin with something so much less interesting. That said, I really do like how they acknowledge the retcon in a very fun and clever way.
Huh? You thought I was an alien at first?
We didn't know there were any areas outside of our island, let alone other species living there. Besides, you did come flying in. Some of us thought you wanted to eat us.
The other thing which I should address is the word cerulean. It's actually a bit of a contentious topic. The enemies in the series are called Celians, which is a portmanteau of cell and alien, in reference to their roots as alien invaders. These are the Japanese katakana characters for Celian. Famously, Japanese words tend to replace L with R as well as add O and U after certain sounds. That is the reason why these katakana are pronounced like this.
Cerulean.
Cerulean. Celian and cerulean have the same pronunciation in Japanese. When the dub came out, the English team had to choose a word to call the enemies, and since it was totally up in the air at the time, they chose the option which seemed more accurate: cerulean.
Those things are called ceruleans.
This confusion was almost certainly made worse due to the fact that the first Celians seen in the anime are the color cerulean. Despite how later media has confirmed that they are supposed to be called Celians, English Kemono Friends media has continued referring to the enemies as ceruleans ever since. All this to say, while most fans call the enemies Celians, it's fairly safe to say that the official English name for them is, in fact, ceruleans. However, I will continue calling them Celians, as that does appear to be the original intention of the creators. Now, episode 10 is when we finally get our big reveal. Kabon and Serval stop at a lodge run by Campo Flicker and they meet Grey Wolf. One of my favorite bits of trivia about the English dub is that Grey Wolf is voiced by the casting director, Marissa Lenti. She's on the commentary for the English Blu-ray release and talks a lot about her process for casting the dub. I'll get into the details later because the dub wouldn't come out for 2 more years. What I will say emphatically is that I adore this dub. Marissa Lenti put a lot of love and thought into her casting choices, and it's clear how much fun the cast had while making it.
Oh, it me.
Yeah. Yep. Sure is.
She seems to completely understand the tone and strengths of Kemono Friends, and wanted to make a dub which didn't feel normal. One of her big techniques for this being the hiring of largely unknown voice talent, and people with accents from different parts of the country. This is why I've been playing the dub instead of the original. Not only so that this video stays mostly in one language for the sake of convenience, but also because I have a ton of respect for the English voice cast. The episode has some light hijinks, like Giraffe thinking Serval is a goat.
So from all of this evidence, your species has been made clear to me. You must be a goat!
That's not even close!
And Grey Wolf constantly trying to scare the group so she can get reference images for the manga she's drawing.
Ooh, great expressions.
There's a whodunit thriller tone, with several characters introduced in a relatively confined area, and everyone seeing a ghost looming around the lodge at night. There's a lot of darkness, or rather, a lack of light, since many scenes take place at night. It's a little unsettling, but I don't think it's as effective as previous episodes. That would be the case, at least, if it wasn't for Serval disappearing in her sleep. Kaban goes looking for her, and this happens.
Not here. Where'd she go?
But really, at this rate...
It's actually decently unsettling. But then Lucky Beast says this.
Don't scare me like that.
Completely evacuating could be an overreaction. We don't need to go that far.
We'll be fine on our own, but Mirai, you and everybody else need to hide!
Well, there we go. They finally said it. The voice belongs to Mirai, someone who has a very similar hat to Kaban. There's something which is tempting to talk about later when it is confirmed, but since that doesn't happen until one of the last scenes in the season, and I don't want to distract from this season's beautiful ending with a rant, I think it's best to talk about it here, now that most of the puzzle pieces are in place. The reveal of who Kaban is. Kaban is Mirai. Kaban is a friend made when Sandstar struck a strand of Mirai's hair. I have mixed feelings about how this was handled. On one hand, I love the concept. Mirai has been in both previous pieces of Kemono Friends media. This is the first time that she's been absent, but she's not really absent. Rather, her role has elevated. Instead of just being another guide character, she is now a lore character, someone who we don't actually see, but who has profound effects on what we're watching. Suddenly, this bubbly tutorial character is reframed as an almost mythological figure from a different time in the park's history, a time we desperately want to know more about because it's before the apparent apocalypse. This gives her an incredible amount of intrigue that she wouldn't have if she was just here. But also, she is still here. Sort of. Kaban is Mirai's legacy, and we get to watch Kaban grow into the resilient park guide who we already know Mirai to be. If you followed Kemono Friends from the beginning, it's kind of like reading the last page first. We already know what Mirai has gone through, and now we get to watch Kaban grow into a similarly great person. Reframing Kaban as a friend born from Mirai's DNA gives us a standard to compare her to, and seeing her grow beyond that standard says a lot about her strong character. It is excellent. That said, all of this is only true if you've played the Kemono Friends mobile game or maybe read the manga. Mirai does not appear in the anime outside of a few recordings. What we've seen is Mirai's character, as far as the anime is concerned. All of the stuff I said about using Mirai as a standard for Kaban to live up to is only true if you know Mirai from other media. And then, the point of her character becomes kind of muddled. Imagine that there are two possible scenarios. One where the anime is your first exposure to the series, and one where you've engaged with Kemono Friends media since 2015. If the anime is your first exposure to the series, then the mysterious nature of Mirai's recordings would probably be really intriguing to you. You want to know more about the past, and you're slowly being drip-fed information about it. You stay interested because you want to know more about this fabled time, when Japari Park was still inhabited by humans. The problem here is that there will be no reveal. You hear these recordings, but we never actually see or understand what happened aside from a Celian attack made people leave.
The real problem is no matter how much we chip away at it, it just heals itself. If we can't defeat it this week, then we'll have to leave the park for good.
In this scenario, the recordings are interesting, but the big reveal never comes, so you're left hanging. In the other scenario, the one where you've engaged with Kemono Friends media since 2015, you already know about Mirai and what the park was like in the past. But you've also already experienced that era, so the recordings lose a lot of their mystery. I don't dislike how the recordings were handled, but they do seem to lack a target audience. This reminds me of a less graceful version of how Persona 2 handled its story. The story of Persona 2 is 2 games long, with half of the story in each game. The first part follows a high school student named Tatsuya, who, at the end of the game, faces a terrible tragedy and is forced to forget about his journey in order to save the world. If anyone discovers the truth that he willingly forgot, then the world will be in danger again. The second game follows Maya, one of the party members from the first game, now promoted to the role of main protagonist, as she tries to uncover a mystery which is closely tied to the events of the first game. Meanwhile, Tatsuya has taken on a more antagonistic role, as he's trying to prevent you from finding out the truth because he knows nothing good can come from it. This is a really cool idea because you can play the games in either order. If you play the games in release order, you experience all of the events firsthand and it places you in Tatsuya's shoes. You know how dangerous it would be to solve the mystery in the second game, and you understand why Tatsuya would be trying to stop you. There's a great deal of suspense as you play the second game because you're waiting for the moment when the mystery gets solved and everything gets worse. However, if you play the second game first, then it places you in Maya's shoes, because you genuinely want to solve the mystery, and you have no idea of how bad the repercussions will be. Now, why did I bring this up in a Kemono Friends video? In short, that's the type of thing I wish happened here. No matter which piece of media you experience first, you're always going to be missing something. Either the mystery gets spoiled, or the mystery has little in the way of resolution. I don't want to make this sound like a big deal. If this video has proven anything so far, it's that I loved this series because of its strong character writing, and the lore is more of a bonus. Still, it's important to critique the things you love, and I think that if the anime had managed to show us a new side of Mirai, or establish her heroics more, it would have been more impactful. As is, it's a half-complete lore idea in an otherwise complete character-driven anime, and the fan response to her is indicative of this. Another note is Mirai's name. It's ironic that she's from the past considering the meaning of her name. Mirai is the Japanese word for future, just like the Japanese word for the ancient past is Korai. That's why the Pokemon Miraidon and Koraidon have perfect names. Koraidon is a dinosaur from the past which you can ride on, and a Miraidon is a dinosaur from the future which you can ride on. More importantly for Kemono Friends, the general word for past is Kako, which is why Mirai's mentor, and one of the original researchers who discovered Friends, is named Professor Kako. Mirai represents the future and potential of Japari Park, while Professor Kako represents its founding and its past. All that to say, it's pretty funny that the character whose name means future has become a lore character from the past, and her present incarnation is named Bag. TLDR, the park guy's hat fell off, her hair got hit by Sandstar, and that's how Kaban came to be. Tangent over. Well, almost over. I'd be remiss if I didn't show Mirai and Serval's last moments of hope before the park had to be abandoned.
That cerulean. It's definitely gigantic, but the real problem is no matter how much we chip away at it, it just heals itself. If we can't defeat it this week, then we'll have to leave the park for good. But it's too bad, 'cause I wanted to stay on this island longer if I could. Didn't expect the end so soon.
Hey, Mirai! Come on, hurry up! Kiriko says that she saw the big one over by the mountain! We all have to work together to take it down!
Huh? What the?
Yes, of course! If we finish it off now, this will all be resolved. Let's show it what we're made of.
Yeah, let's! We've got this!
Is that you, Serval?
Serval. Sometimes there are multiple friends from the same species, so...
Hey, are you...
Huh? What's this? That's weird. Why am I...
Considering what we know about different generations of friends, and seeing Serval's tears, and the fact that Caracol's absent from this season, I don't think Serval made it out of that attack. Episode 11 is called Celian, and it starts with the duo seeing a black Celian, a definite callback to the mobile game and its island of black Celians, which you visited near the end of the game. They meet Golden Snub-Nosed Monkey, whose design is a clear reference to the Monkey King Sun Wukong from the famous Chinese story Journey to the West. Eastern media referencing Journey to the West is nothing new. In fact, Sun Wukong famously inspired another really well-known manga, whose main character is straight up named after him, specifically the Japanese transcription of his name, Son Goku.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
Yeah, exactly. I find it interesting in this case that the friend who meets the group on the island of Black Celians is inspired by this literary figure, because Journey to the West is a distinctively Buddhist story. In the mobile game, the group was aided by the Shinto figures Shiza when they fought the Black Celians. It's interesting that religious figures consistently fight the Black Celians, but the figures are from entirely different religions based on if it's the game or the show. In Journey to the West, Sun Wukong has two disciples, the strong pig Zhu Bajie and the sweet but dull Sha Wujing. Likewise, Golden Snub-Nosed Monkey also works in a team of 3, but her partners are Brown Bear and one of my personal favorites, African Wild Dog. I have a little gel keychain of her from a Circle K promotion and everything. While neither of them seem to be direct references to Journey to the West, Brown Bear's no-nonsense attitude and African Wild Dog's timidness could be seen as light references to Zhu Bajie's strength and Sha Wujing's, kindness. What I find interesting about Sha Wujing is the origin of his name. Sha Wujing roughly means sand aware of purity, which takes on a whole new meaning considering Sandstar's ability to awaken friends. I can't say if there's any deeper meaning to any of this, but there's a whole playground of information for theory crafting here. It's good stuff. Golden Snub-Nosed Monkey is the leader of a group of Celian hunters, and they're tracking Celian footprints to the mountain. Kabon and Serval start climbing the mountain themselves, and they get a message from Mirai about another reference to Chinese religion. More specifically, the 4 gods, which represent the cardinal directions.
We were right. The giant cerulean has been getting energy from the mountain somehow. Now that we know that the black cerulean has that ability, we need to reaffix the mountain's filter before we can launch any sort of counterattack. We were able to line up the 4 gods, and now we're about to descend the mountain. We have to eliminate the cerulean by any means necessary. Even if we've already evacuated all the friends, we can't leave that monster on the island.
It turns out, the black Celian which the group is hunting is the very same one from Mirai's recordings, the one which potentially defeated Serval in the past and forced people to flee the park. It follows the direction of the sun, and it feeds off of Sandstar from the mountain to survive. That also allows it to heal damage. It's basically invincible. So here we are, 8.5 minutes into the penultimate episode, and we're faced with an insurmountable enemy. And then it finally happens, the thing I've been waiting for since the beginning. The characters finally meet.
Please don't eat me! I finally caught you, dirty hat thief!
What? Hat thief? What do you mean?
I got it!
As it turns out, all of this started because Arai-san found Mirai's hat. Lucky Beast only responds to people who have her hat, so it gave Arai-san a message, and she believed that Mirai was some type of messenger of great danger, and that she was trying to warn Arai-san to save the park. After the hat got hit by Sandstar, it created Kabon as a friend, and Arai-san assumed that Kabon had run off with the hat she had found. This is why Arai-san was following Serval the whole time. She was trying to get the hat back so she could hear more of Mirai's messages. And finally, she's about to do exactly that.
Then let's listen together.
The locations: east, west, south, and north from the middle of the crater. According to the pamphlet's map, the crossing at 3E should be the exact epicenter. This statue is of the Eastern Azure Dragon, so I believe there should be 3 more buried nearby. If it's really filtering the Sandstar Raw here, then this island is incredibly valuable. A natural wonder of the world.
Like I said, the 4 gods represent cardinal directions. There are statues named after them around the summit of the volcano, and somehow they're supposed to filter Sandstar and prevent it from leaking out of the mountain. 3 of the statues are buried, and if the group wants to help stop the giant black Celian from absorbing Sandstar and healing, they're going to need to uncover the remaining 3 statues so that they can filter it out again.
Let's see. 3E would be where these 2 quadrants connect? I wonder what east, west, south, and north means.
Well, I know the sun rises in the east, and it sinks in the west, so I bet that this arrow is the one pointing north.
What the heck?
Since Raccoon's always running off and getting lost, I have to know how to navigate with the stars and the sun.
Wow, that's incredible.
Under Kaban's leadership, they're able to find 2 of them immediately, and Kaban notices land in the distance. Perhaps a place where humans are.
Something the matter, Kaban?
No, it's nothing. Come on, let's keep looking.
The group is too slow, and the Black Celian gains more power from feeding off Sandstar. Lucky Beast sounds off a warning, triggering this little scene.
Due to a park emergency, visitors are to evacuate immediately. The nearest evacuation route is Sunrise Harbor. Please proceed in an orderly fashion.
Lucky,
visitors are to evacuate immediately.
This isn't the time for...
No, ma'am. Ensuring the safety of visitors is my job as a park guide robot. Please evacuate immediately. The nearest evacuation route is...
Lucky. I'm not a visitor and I won't leave. All of the friends here, they've helped me in ways I can't describe. If something's happening to the park, then I want to do whatever I can.
With Kaban now having fully taken over Mirai's role as park guide, Lucky Beast helps them use the 4 gods to seal the volcano and stop the Sandstar from leaking out. The glittering, which has been all over the park since episode 1, vanishes, but the Black Celian is still around. Kaban cooks up a plan to lead the Celian to a boat on the harbor since it follows light. They can use the Japari bus and torches to lead it to the harbor and drown it.
Now that's the great Kaban! So cool!
Wait, the boat? But Kaban, I thought you needed it. Didn't you want to go search for other humans?
No, it's fine. The safety of everyone in the park matters much more. If we can manage to lure the cerulean out, Lucky and I can handle operating the boat. I'm assigning Finnick and Raccoon to the job of guiding any nearby friends away from the area.
There's a fun chase in the Japari bus, but it ends in tragedy when Serval is absorbed by the Celian.
Kaban, boss, go!
Kaban wants to stay behind to save Serval, but is warned not even to try. The hunters carry Lucky Beast to the harbor so he can activate the boat. No one is left to stop Kaban from going rogue. Serval is still inside the monster and Kaban isn't going to abandon her. In a great callback to episode 1, where Serval had to help Kaban climb a tree so she would know how to protect herself, Kaban ties a harness around herself and climbs up a tree on her own to save Serval.
Hang on, Serval. I'm coming for you!
It's a ballsy move considering how she's a friend, but it's a fantastic moment to show the bond the two have with each other. I'll have more to say about this much later in the video, but for now, all that matters is, Kaban and Serval would never abandon each other, no matter what might happen to them in the future.
Thank you. Be well.
It might seem like a lot happened in that episode, and that's why it's great. It wants to hurt you. Almost every episode has focused primarily on endearing you to the friends. Kaban and Serval shared a drink with Toki and Alpaca. They befriended the loner Tsuchinoko. We got to relate to Beaver and Prairie Dog, and we got to see who Lion was behind all of her pride. Shoebill got to express herself, and through her, we experienced what it's like to be timid but caring and to finally speak up and see how good it can feel to do so. This show is focused on establishing these characters as friends. Not just friends, but your friends. We spend time with them, and we come to care about them not as tools which the writer can exploit for drama, but as real people with their own quirks. They want to make you smile, even if it means letting the drama and lore take a back seat from time to time, because sometimes having a friend to talk to is all you need. Sometimes having a reliable group of friends to take care of each other is what helps us get through the day. And this episode wants to hurt your friends. It wants to spend 10 episodes establishing characters who do nothing but make you smile, and then it wants to abuse them. It wants you to feel like these are your buddies who you can share a drink with, and then it wants to take your buddies away from you. Episodes 1 through 10 tell you that this is a safe space, full of people who you trust, where you can relax and turn your brain off. And episode 11 tells you that your friends got in a car crash, and they won't be making it this week. At the beginning of the final episode, Serval wakes up at the harbor and the first thing she thinks of is Kaban.
What's going on? Where is she?
She rescued you, and then was taken by the Cerulean herself.
What? We have to save her!
I really love these two.
By now, she's probably...
Don't say that! Let's check again! She's always been incredible! I'm sure she's fine!
It turned on! The Cerulean must be coming!
We have to finish this before sunrise.
Well, I'm going back, even if I have to go alone!
Serval and Brown Bear try to weaken the Celian to see if it's even possible to save Kaban. This is one of those scenes which really makes you appreciate the voice direction. It makes this moment far more emotional than you might expect.
Serval! Once it sees the boat, it's going to take off running! Get away from it!
No! She's still in there! I have to get her out! She can be a scaredy cat sometimes, but she always tries her hardest to help those in need no matter what! And there's still so much we have to see. So many places we need to go. So just... give me back my friend!
Suddenly, the owls are here to help. Since Lucky Beast saw a human in danger, it alerted the other friends about the Celian. The owls got there first, but they can't do much on their own.
Good grief.
But pretty quickly, we see the whole teaser from Shin Megami Tensei 5 show up. The main theme playing during a climactic final scene is one of my favorite tropes. And it's even funnier when the theme is this completely cheery. I really love how this moment plays out. It might seem like a power of friendship scene, but it really isn't. It's more like all of your friends getting the gang together to help out one person in trouble. I also appreciate how useless their attacks are. Altogether, they're able to take out only one limb, something which none of them could have done on their own, but the rest of the Celian is just fine. Worse yet, they do free Kaban, but she seems to have reverted into some kind of sand star orb. Not only that, but the monster is still right on top of them. In the previous episode, Kaban saved Serval by climbing a tree, something she learned from Serval. It really drove home the idea that Serval had imprinted on her. And now, in the finale, it's time for Serval to demonstrate just how much Kaban has imprinted on her, too.
Get moving! Let's get out of here!
Everyone flees, and Serval saves the orb, but Kaban doesn't seem to be coming back.
This can't be goodbye!
Serval, let go. She must return to her original form.
But keep in mind, Kaban is a human, and Sandstar essentially turns animals into humans. In other words.
We friends are animals bestowed with human traits, so if a human friend returns to normal, they remain the same?
They truly are a mysterious species.
As they look out at the harbor, it seems their plan has worked. The boat was set on fire like planned, and after the friends ran away, the Celian made its way to the boat because of the light. Unfortunately, Lucky Beast is still on board.
Kaban, Serval.
The day is saved. In a really interesting nod to episode 1, a hyena is seen panting at the same location where Serval fought the first large Celian. If you remember back to that episode, a scream was heard before Serval found the monster. We didn't have the framework to understand it back then, but the implication is that this hyena is the friend which screamed, now reverted back to its animal form. Everyone is seen partying and recovering from the battle at Central Park, just like at the end of the mobile game. Many of the friends get short scenes which sum up their characters pretty concisely. The owls are judging people's cooking, Marge is helping Toki find an audience with Peppapu, Otter is making puns.
I must climb to the top! Me too! Out of the way!
It's one last hurrah for all the friends we met along the way. Tsuchinoko gets an especially fun bit.
Hey, why won't you sit with us? How suspicious. I am calmer this way!
The most meaningful moment of all here is the heart-to-heart between Kaban and Serval. To defeat the Black Celians, the boat had to be destroyed, meaning Kaban can't leave the park anymore.
Sorry you couldn't use it to find the other humans.
It's true that I eventually want to go learn about my species, but I've really enjoyed my time in the park, so the outside world can wait.
It's a sweet sentiment, but Fennec and Araisan have a surprise.
It's a present! Sure is.
Yeah, no duh!
They converted the Japari bus into a boat. At last, we see them all at the harbor. There's an emotional goodbye on the coast now that Kaban finally has a chance to leave the park and find other humans. Kaban is visibly concerned about leaving, and she decides to show Serval that she learned how to climb a tree. Before she sets out for the future, she has to show Serval just how much she's learned from her before leaving the park. Considering how lonely it felt when Kaban unwillingly said goodbye to Serval in episode 1, her willingly leaving Serval behind here, it gets me. Serval, who almost made the decision to leave on her own before, is now the last one standing, watching her friend leave forever. Not necessarily forever, but thanks to Season 2, yeah, basically forever. Anyone who has had to say goodbye to their beloved friend before knows how painful it is to see them off for the final time, and that's exactly what this is. It's reminiscent of the last scene in that famous Futurama episode, the one where Fry's dog waits forever for him to return, but he never does. We just made all these friends and Serval doesn't want to leave, but she finally has to leave. It's over. They're off to the future, and the future is uncertain, but it's where we're all headed. It couldn't be a better ending. And then we see Serval's ears. She's following Kaban to the mainland. Just like in episode 1, the curious cat isn't going to leave her friend, and they get to head into the future together. Even if it means leaving everything she knows behind, Serval would rather stay by her friend's side because that's what it means to be friends through thick and thin.
can see an island. I never saw it on the map. Does it have a name?
That would be the Gokoku region. As it is a different jurisdiction, I do not know much about it myself.
The Gokoku region might sound familiar, because that's the island where a lot of the original mobile game took place. This also reframes the season as taking place on the final island of the game. Kaban and Serval are headed towards the Gokoku region. We don't know if they'll stay there, or if they'll go to the mainland and visit human society. Just imagine that. What would it be like to have a season of Kemono Friends set in modern-day Japan? But that won't be an adventure for today, because that's all she wrote. That's the end of Kemono Friends. I really forgot just how hard the last 2 episodes hit me. The use of music in the darkness of night to make everything feel more dire is truly excellent, and the fact that the show is so utterly sweet until the final 2 episodes, where Serval and Kaban are clawing and crying and begging for their lives, really makes it hit that much harder. I don't know if it's just because this doujinshi exists, or if it's because there's a genuine connection to be made, but it really reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 3. That game is famously lighthearted and campy. It's a 60s spy thriller throughout, and you can't take it seriously. But then the ending creeps up on you. It's a 30-minute debrief of your mission, and suddenly everything hits you all at once. All of the shady politics and betrayals and the sacrifices are revealed all at the same time, and it puts all your wacky antics into an entirely new context. You thought you were a cool action hero the whole time, but suddenly reality hits, and it becomes clear that everyone you cared about has either betrayed you or died by your hand. Kemono Friends somehow does something incredibly similar with its finale. It's lighthearted and cute for most of its runtime, but suddenly the last 2 episodes are dire and characters are on the cusp of basically dying. The incredible part about it is that the finale doesn't betray the rest of the show's tone. Circumstances get dire, and friends are nearly wiped out. But things all turn out okay. Even Lucky Beast kind of gets saved because Kaban finds his memory chip. Things are terrible and people get hurt, but in the end, everyone lives happily ever after. You aren't prepared for the emotional gut punch of the last 2 episodes because nothing in the show prepares you to feel this sad. But in the end, just like the rest of the show, everyone makes it out in one piece. Even reading this, I'm holding back tears. I know how that sounds. I'm not someone who cries at everything. Truth be told, most people I know have told me that I've had a pretty hard life. I'm not gonna get sappy on you. All I'm trying to say is that when I say the ending of Kemono Friends always hits me like a truck, I mean it. This is one of the most emotional endings I've seen in a show. Far from the saddest, but one of the sweetest. It's no wonder why this struck a chord of so many people. Also, keep in mind, I didn't explain everything. This has been an incredibly brief overview of the show. I have barely touched on the individual character moments, which are what really make it so special, because I want you to go watch this show. During an interview, director Tatsuki said that,
"In a normal series, you have 2 or 3 feelings that inhabit it, but in this series, dozens of them are intertwining."
I think that perfectly sums up why this ending is so striking. It's not just sad or happy or bittersweet. It's everything. When you're in a group of friends, you all have good times together, and bad times, and funny times, and depressing times. And the show has all of those, and even more. I don't think a video can sum up just how impactful Season 1 of the anime is. Season 1 is something you just have to watch for yourself. No other series has made me feel this many emotions in only 12 episodes. This is my favorite single season of television ever released. And the fan response seems to agree.
The subject of Kemono Friends is animals, so no one is claiming rights to them. Animals don't claim portrait rights, after all. If fans can think of animals that haven't become friends yet and draw them, I think it would be fun to expand the world. It's hard to put into words, but in that sense, we support derivative works, and I hope everyone understands that Kemono Friends is open to anyone.
Chapter 3 Kemono Mania.
Let's hope that みんな集まってジャンプジャンプすごいいい感じ君とどこまでも行きましょう